I'm Emily. How many of you guys have ever been to a zoo before? Alright, awesome. I have as well. When I was a kid, I definitely thought it was like the coolest thing ever, going to see all the animals. But then when I went to a zoo as an adult, I realized that the animals' living conditions are really at stake and they're not living their life to their fullest. Which brings me to my main claim that zoo life is detrimental to animals being housed in zoos. My three supporting claims are that zoo life lowers animals' longevity, animals are treated inhumanely while housed in zoos, and zoo life causes animals to display aggressive and stressed behaviors. My first point that zoo life lowers animals' longevity is confirmed by an article posted in the New York Times in 2016 by Christine Hauser, who's an animal activist. She confirmed that experts who study elephants in the wild oppose capturing the animals. She also states that taking elephants from the wild is traumatic for them and is also detrimental to their health. By placing an elephant in a completely new environment away from his herd, his lifespan is shortened greatly. Also, African elephants live 3 times longer in the wild than they would in captivity. A study done in 2008 by the UK government confirmed that 75% of the elephants in the zoos were overweight and only 16% could walk normally. Just like humans, if 75% of them are overweight, their lifespan is going to be shortened, and it's definitely an issue in animals as well. And it's a very serious fact that only 16% of the elephants could walk normal, which is also detrimental to their health. A survey of the records of 45,000 elephants in the wild found that the average lifespan of elephants in the zoo is 16.9 years, whereas on a nature preserve or in the wild, their lifespan is 56 years. So their lifespan is shortened by almost 50 years by being placed into the captivity in the zoos. A zoo in St. Paul, Minnesota confirmed that 26% of male gorillas and 20% of female gorillas die within their first year of captivity. So these animals are being brought to the zoos and are dying within their first year of captivity, so it's clearly not the best environment for them. Which brings me to my second point, that animals are treated inhumanely while housed in zoos. The animals are taken out of their natural habitat of the wild where they have room to roam and do as they please, and they're placed in glass enclosures with little room to move. The average lion or tiger in the zoo has 18,000 times less space in captivity than they would in the wild. It's inhumane because the difference between their space is so vast, and the captivity is only attempting to mirror their natural habitat. It's not the same at all. It mirrors it for guest entertainment, so it looks like bamboo and all that, but it's really not like their environment at all because the space is so much smaller. Also, zoos around the country have been cutting, since 2003, they've been cutting back their funds, and their funds have been going to cosmetic improvements such as food, landscaping, and gift shops, and they're not going to the conditions for the animals. Also, zoo animals have been found dead in dumpsters as well as found shot, and they have been bred inappropriately under the care of the zoo employees and owners. The zoo employees and owners are not treating the animals humanely, and if they're not, no one is going to take them seriously. Which brings me to my third point, that zoo life causes animals to display aggressive and stressed behaviors. Captive animals frequently display abnormal repetitive behavior, which is caused by depression, boredom, and psychosis. Zoos prescribe antidepressants and tranquilizers in order to control these behavior problems. The animals are bored. The main symptoms are them pacing back and forth, excessive licking, and they're having mental problems because they're in these small enclosures. The stress in the animals is caused by a lack of variety in diet, a lack of barriers to hide from the view, and inconsistency in the animals' relationships with humans. The animals have no room to do anything as they please, to eat, sleep. They're just always being watched by either guests or there's always people working in the zoo. And with the relationships with the caretakers, as when one of our jobs, someone comes in to open the store, someone will come close, the animals are not forming good relationships with their caretakers. Because animals in the wild don't really interact with people very much at all. So they're not forming that trust with the people, and which is leading to them displaying aggressive and stressed behaviors. An Oxford study that was done over 4 decades of observations of animals concluded that animals such as cheetahs, polar bears, lions, and tigers show the most evidence of stress and psychological dysfunction in captivity. These animals, cheetahs, bears, lions, tigers, are the biggest, most aggressive animals, and they're showing the most evidence of stress and aggression, which can definitely lead to danger. If one of these animals were to escape, they would most definitely attack either the person working at the zoo or whoever they see first. So these big animals displaying the aggression is the most dangerous and detrimental. To review my main points, zoo life lowers animals' longevity, meaning they live much shorter lives in the zoo than they would in the wild. They're treated inhumanely by zookeepers as well as guests, and zoo life causes animals to display aggressive and stressed behaviors. Thank you.
All right, proposition's clear, the contents are previewed. I think you kind of explained a little bit of the controversy. I thought that you had a pretty good start on the first point when you talked about longevity issues, and you had some evidence that you cited, in particular the example of the elephants. I thought that was pretty strong. And then you got to the second and the third points, and there were lots of claims being made that I didn't hear quite as much source citation on. And in fact, there were a lot of things that sound like they are incidents or assumptions that need to be documented in order for us to give them a little bit more credence. And I know that part of the thing that's going on is you want to fit everything in time, but because you're rushing, and I think you're sometimes skipping the source citations, that undermines your credibility on a couple of those points. There's long sections where you make a series of claims about deaths of animals, or about, for example, there's one section where you talk about how zoos are cutting funds, and that when they spend money, they spend it on things other than the animals. And I'm going, and where does this come from? What is the basis for this information? And I'm sure that you got a source, but it's not presented here. It's just an assertion as far as the audience is going to be concerned. So you need to provide some documentation on a variety of those kinds of points. Like I said, it did feel a little bit like you were rushing, and I'm doing the same thing so we can get to additional speakers. Thank you.